Today I'm going to talk about something that is brand new and still in the works, but this is a little sneak peek of it, and it's called my Be Great cheat sheet. All right, and my Be Great cheat sheet is basically how to enjoy vacations, parties, and restaurants stress-free without losing all of your progress or losing control. How's that sound? Are we intrigued? Awesome. Now, this Be Great cheat sheet, this is something, now that I'm kind of actually putting it all down on paper, it's something that I've been working on basically my entire life, whether it was just through personal trial and error and personal experience, or talking and coaching thousands of women that I've coached over the years. Literally my whole life is put into this one thing, and I thought it was so cool because when I actually start to put my ideas down on paper, it just started to flow like crazy. I'm like, oh my God, there's a method. I have a method, right? After so long, you find a step-by-step system. So that is what I wanted to share with you today. My Be Great cheat sheet, okay? Now it's very simple, okay? Great, G-R-E-A-T, okay? So game plan, risks, expectations, afterthought, and tactics. Super simple, all right? And I'm just gonna explain it today really briefly so far what I've got down for you ladies, because it's my hope that you can enjoy your life and see progress. Not always have to put your progress on hold when you have crazy things in life happen, like parties, anniversaries, weddings, whatever. And know that you can have it all. You don't have to always be in a sacrificing mood, right? I want to have a good time and I'll sacrifice my progress. Or I don't want to sacrifice my progress, but I'm not going to have a good time, right? You can have both, and that's what I want to walk you through today, okay? Now, starting with the G. The G stands for game plan, all right? Now, you wouldn't go into war without knowing your battlefield, right? Same thing here. You need to have some type of game plan so you are prepared and you have a plan of attack, okay? My whole life, the majority, whenever I tackled events, I would either didn't care, because I just didn't want to care. I would just go crazy and binge, or I would be actively trying to lose weight, and the thought of these events would make me really anxious because I was afraid that I'd blow everything. So then I would feel really motivated the day of, and I wouldn't really go in with a plan. I just thought I could do it. I thought I was strong enough, right? We've all been there. We think, no, it's cool, I'm good, right? I don't gotta back myself up. So game plan is super important, ladies. You need to know when you're getting there. When are you leaving? Who's gonna be there that's a good influence? Who's gonna be there that's a bad influence, right? What exactly is happening? Are you guys going to a restaurant and then out for ice cream? Are you golfing and then eating lunch, right? Like, what is happening? And what boundaries need to be set? What boundaries need to be set with yourself? And also oftentimes it's overlooked, what boundaries need to be set with the people you're going with, right? Because if people aren't on the same page, whether it's your spouse, your friends, your kids, they're not on the same page as you, it just makes it one step more difficult, and they're not going to fall in line, and then you're leaving yourself exposed, right? So number one is a game plan. You can't hope for the best. You have to prepare, or at least be aware of what's going to go down, so you don't risk all your progress. If you do not plan, you are risking all of your progress. Whereas if you plan, you have fail safes in place where you can still come out a winner on the other end. But if we just hope for the best, it hasn't worked so far, right? Hoping it goes well is not a strategy, right? It's a lazy way out. It takes a little extra effort to work on a game plan. So that's the G, okay? Now the R is risks, okay? You shouldn't be going into war or into, a battle if you do not potentially know where your enemies could be hiding, right? Where are all your temptations? And I usually say list them out. Like there's easily 10 that you can think of for that, whatever specific event you're going to. There's at least 10, and you should be getting at least 10 every time. Now you need to know where they're going to be because you need to know how you're going to maneuver through this event, right? Where am I going to be tempted? When am I going to be tempted? Who might be tempting me? Peer pressure, favorite dessert, favorite food, right? Am I going to be staying up later than usual and be tired, right? Is there going to be alcohol which makes me want to snack and get the munchies, right? You need to know all the possible temptations so you face them and you can go in with a guard up, okay? Because the more that you say no, if there are at least 10 temptations, which there are in every event, at least minimum, that means you have to say no a minimum of 10 times, right? At least. And usually it never works the first time. So you probably have to say no at least 20 times. Now, the problem with saying no is every time you say no, it loses its power. The more you say no, the more likely you are to say yes. So you have to save your no's. So you need to assess those risks, see which ones are the most tempting, that could cause the most damage, or that in the past you've succumbed to the most. And then you need to say, okay, how can I save my no's for those? So that's R in the Be Great cheat sheet, your risks, right? You have to analyze all of them, not just there's going to be food there, there's going to be alcohol there. That's not good enough. Get deeper. What exactly is going to be there that's going to throw you off? So you can already have that situation in your mind and you know what's around every corner. All right. For the E, expectations. Okay. It's usually, ladies, it's usually not the event that throws you off. It's really not. However you performed, it's usually not what happened. It's how you react and respond and feel about what happened. If you feel like a giant failure, if you feel guilty, guess what? That makes it a bad thing. When it didn't have to be a bad thing. It could have just been a thing that happened and you learned from. Right? So setting the realistic expectations for this event each new event, every time something pops up, whether you're going over to your mom's for dinner or going on a week-long vacation in Cancun, doesn't matter. You have to set realistic expectations, right? So you think to yourself, when was the last time I had an event like this, right? And how did it end last time? Probably you didn't pass that test well, right? You failed miserably or you just scooted by. So then if that's your track record, that's what you measure success based on. You start from the bottom up, not from the top down. That's setting yourself up for failure, right? So going into it, how have you performed in the past? And then what is a realistic goal for you to accomplish this time around, right? Did you have 3 hamburgers last time and an entire bag of chips? Or you got shit-faced? Like whatever it is, just make it 1 less degree intense. That's realistic. So then when you eat 2 hamburgers, you don't feel guilty about 2 hamburgers. You eat 2 hamburgers and you said, I said I was going to do that. And I did exactly what I said. I'm a woman of my word. That's a difference. And then you can get right back on track afterwards because you don't feel like you veered off at all because you stuck exactly to your plan and your goals, right? It is illogical to think, given all of your experience, that you can pass and ace this next test. These events are tests, right? Have you put in enough studying time to expect to ace it? Probably not. So you don't have to ace it. You don't even have to get a B+. Just pass. Just pass. And we forget that part. We try to go in and ace it every time, right? We're like that one kid who didn't do any studying, crams the morning of, and hopes for the best, right? And still expects to get an A. It's not going to happen. So stop expecting it. Take that pressure off of yourself. Look at your history. Look at your history. And look at how much time you put into studying or working on this. Not enough to ace something every time. So adjust your expectations so you're okay with it, right? And for me personally, this is probably one of the biggest things that has helped me because I was notoriously somebody who felt super guilty after an event. Is anybody else like that? Like I used to always feel super guilty. Like, why did I do that? Oh, I screwed up again. I have to start fresh tomorrow. I have to start fresh on Monday. I shouldn't have had this. Or I felt so uncomfortably full, right? I failed myself. and I failed the goals that I set because I either didn't set them or set them too high. And then the second you feel guilty, ladies, guess what follows the feeling of guilt? The fuck it mentality. The second you feel guilty, the fuck it mentality follows. And if the fuck it mentality happens on a Saturday, guess what that means? You're going to screw up on Sunday and tell yourself, I'm going to start fresh on Monday. Do not let the guilt set in. If you want to survive an event and be stronger for it, and put that towards the studying hours, lower your expectations, compare it to your past history, and then you don't feel bad. You're like, I did what I could do. That's the next one. All right, so that was the E. Now the A, this is the afterthought, okay? So if you win the battle, if you lose the battle, you don't have to lose the whole war. So let's say we had the game plan. We assessed the risks. We adjusted our expectations, but something still went wrong. You need to have an afterthought, a plan B, right? So plan B for when you either get home from the event and or the next day from the event. So habits don't carry over. Because for me, that was my biggest issue. I normally would have, I'd mess up and have, let's say, a piece of dessert when I told myself I wouldn't. And I didn't go crazy, right? I didn't go crazy, but because I said I wouldn't do it and I did do it, the guilt set in. And because I wasn't prepared the next day, because I let one thing slip, I said screw it to everything. And it was usually the day after that was worse. Or the night of, if you got home alone, right? If you got home after a party. That could be just as bad, if not worse, if you haven't thought about it. And most people don't. They think they're in the clear and they think they're safe when the event is over, right? But if that was the case, you would get back on track very quickly and we wouldn't be set back every time a big event happens. And it wouldn't slow our progress down and we wouldn't feel like crap about it, right? So what's the afterthought, right? Before you went to the event, have you set your alarm for the next morning because you want to get up and do an early workout? Have you set your workout clothes out already so you can wake up and put them on right away, right? Have you put your running shoes by your bed? Like, what's something you can do to make sure that the next day you can get back on track and not let the habits roll over? So think to yourself in this situation, what is one habit that has the potential to roll over? What's the biggest threat to me, right, during that event? And then has that ever rolled over before? Has it ever stuck around and lingered in my behavior patterns, right? And then you prepare for that. How can I intercept that? How can I push that off from happening? Because you really only have to survive the next day and then you're right back because you didn't feel bad about it and you were super prepared afterwards and you're feeling good about the whole situation. Plus you're still gonna have good progress measurements, whether that's pictures, the scale, actual waist measurements. You'll still have good ones because you were in control. So everything is on your side. And you feel fabulous. So that is the A, afterthought. What happens after your event? What have you put in place as your plan B to make sure that you can keep going or get back on track depending on how the event unfolded? Okay, and that's very, very often overlooked. You are not out of the clear just because you survived the event, okay? Now the last thing I want to go over is the T, and that stands for tactics. So think of these as the weapons you're bringing into battle with you, right? You don't want to go into a gunfight with just your fists, right? You have to have some things in place that can help block those risks, block those no's from needing to be set, right? Block the expectations from going too high, right? So I'm going to wear a tight dress because that's going to deter me from eating because I'm going to look 3 months pregnant and I don't want that. Right? Did you talk to the host early and tell them you're leaving early? Right? Did you look at a menu beforehand at the restaurant so you didn't have to look at it the day of and be tempted? Right? Or did you have a protein shake with you? Did you fill up on veggies first? Like all these little tactics play a part. And that means out of the 20 times that you were possibly tempted, you had a tactic for 5, you were willpowered for 5, and then you left early and didn't have to deal with the other 5. Right? So out of the possible 20 times you could have screwed up, we covered our ass. There's only 5 where we didn't cover our ass. and you either completely failed and what caved for all 5, which is still fabulous because you avoided 15, or you still was able to manage, get rid of those extra 5, right? Resist those extra 5. So the tactics are the weapons and the safeguards in place that will prevent you from having to fight every enemy, right? It just wouldn't even pop up. And that makes it so much easier. So it's not a fight, right? You don't have to talk yourself through everything or talk yourself up or switch your mindset to positive all the time. You can just enjoy the event itself, right? Make company the main event instead of the food or the drink, right? You say, I'm going to talk to every one of my cousins here before I go get a plate, right? I'm going to go hug grandma before I get a plate. Whatever. Company first, food second. Food is just there to entertain you in between the company. That is it. So that's the Be Great cheat sheet. That's a quick overview. But if you break it down like that, there are 5 steps that you need, GREAT, 5 steps that you need to survive it, to thrive with it, and have it be a mark on the side of a good repetition for you, not another failed attempt. We can't view the failures as the failures, otherwise we keep stacking failures, because failures usually happen more than wins, ladies, right? But a fail is a win. It is a win. It's proving to you that there was progress to be lost, which is so exciting. It wouldn't be a fail if you didn't have any progress to start with. So it's proof that there's progress, and it's showing you your weak point. That's a blessing. Not only did you have progress, now you know another weak point. So now you can only get stronger by being exposed to failures. So this is one of the many things that I'm creating right now to help you in these situations. So it's just a step-by-step thing. It's just a step, boom, check, boom, like step 1, check, 2, check. Super simple. Instead of, I got to do this, I got to watch out for this, where it's all in our mind, we freak out, we feel guilty, or we say, I'm not going to worry about any of it. Or we think we're prepared and we go in and we completely, shatter our self-confidence. Either way, there needs to be an easier way. There needs to be a more organized way. And this is a start. So GREAT, ladies, game plan, risks, expectations, afterthought, and tactics. Very simple, okay? Now, I want to take this and I want to practically summarize it, practically apply it for you ladies, okay? So I want you to think of an event you have coming up, okay? Or an event you just had if you don't have anything coming up. And I want you to, we're going to apply this together. So game plan, okay? Game plan. So we're going to write this in the comments. When does it start? When does it end? Either a time it starts and a time it's going to end, or what day does it start and what day does it end if it's a longer vacation. So write that in the comments or go over it in your head. So what's the times you're going to be there for? And then, right, pick one thing. Pick one thing. This is something you do fresh for every new temptation, every new possible event. If you've got dinner after dinner from Monday to Friday, you redo this every night. So once you have the start and the end, then you ask yourself, who is going to be there? That's a good influence. Who's going to be that's a good influence? Is your Aunt Sherry a health nut and you can sit with her and she's eating the salad and not eating the fried chicken to tempt you? Right? Who's the good one? And then who are the bad influences, right? Is your mother-in-law the one that heaps on 2 spoonfuls of mashed potatoes instead of just the one you asked for? Right? Is Uncle Larry going to comment on your weight for a 10th time and put you in a bad mental state? Right? So who's going to be there that's a bad influence? And then what are the boundaries that need to be set with who you're going with? So who needs to know when you're getting there, when you're leaving? And then what boundaries do you need to set with yourself, right? What's the one boundary that if you set, you will feel okay? Is it, I'm not going to sit by the food table? Is it, I'm not going to stay past the time that I said I would? Because that's what I normally do, right? What's the one boundary that you need to set with yourself that would just make you 1% stronger? Think about that. Now, then we take it to the risks. Okay, this is a crazy one. I want you to really think about this one. So what are the risks that you're facing? So list them. At that event, what could get in your way? Is there chocolate? Is there potato salad? Is there pizza? Right? You don't care for pizza, then don't write it as a risk. What are all your temptations that you know have thrown you off in the past? Peer pressure, Sitting by the buffet and snacking while you're talking to someone, wearing a big baggy shirt and stretchy pants because you know you're going to eat lots and want to be comfortable, right? What are the risks that you're going to be exposed to there? And stare them in the face. There's at least 10 you can make up, but you can just comment a couple. So what are those risks? And now think of which of those risks are the most dangerous. What's the one that you always seem to give into or is always the most damaging? The one that you always say you're not going to do, but you always do, or the one that always causes the most damage or the most guilt or the most disappointment. Now that is the one that you have to watch out for. So now you know the risks, you know all the little risks that you have to watch out for, and then the big one is what you save your willpower for, okay? So that's the R. Now the E, expectations, okay? So whatever event you're thinking of, I want you to think of the last time you had an event like that. How did it go? Write that in the comments. How did it go? If you had to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being perfect, what would it be? Was it a negative because you screwed up? Was it a 5 out of 10 because you did okay? The last time you had an event like the one we're talking about, rate it out of a 1 to 10. Excellent. So if you put a 7 out of 10, guess what? All you're aiming for is an 8 out of 10. If you put a 1 out of 10, guess what? All you're aiming for is a 2 out of 10. Does that make sense, ladies? It's a whole lot less pressure if all you gotta frickin' do is a 2, right? You can do a 2. You can do one better number. You can do that. What you can't do is jump up more than 2 numbers. It's not gonna happen. If it does happen, it's a fluke and you can't rely on it because then you're gonna keep doing that. So adjust your expectations to a 2, right? Or to a 8, whatever that is for you. And that is your passing grade. Not your acing grade, not your A++, it's your passing grade. So then tell yourself, what is my realistic goal? When I'm done with this event, what do I want to have accomplished? Who do I want to be? To be proud of how I handled it and to be okay with how it went. What would need to accomplish? What's the minimum, right? If it's a great big event, it would be, you know, I'm gonna maintain my weight this week, right? That's a realistic expectation. I'm gonna maintain instead of I'm gonna lose. I'm not gonna eat anything because I'm determined to lose weight this week. Well, look at your number. Is a 2 out of 10 gonna get you a weight loss? No. So you can't fix that number because you've been trying over and over again. So the only thing you can fix is the expectation of the goal of how the event's gonna go. So make a realistic expectation based on your history, right? And for most women, that's either my weight will maintain. If I was getting like I would say a 6 and up out of 10 at my last event, usually tackling the next event would be maintain my weight that week. And then if it's a 6 or 5 or below, it's usually probably gain just 1 or 2 pounds, right? Which we lose very quickly because it's just extra food and inflammation. But you have to be mentally prepared. That's when you jump on the scale and it doesn't bother you because you expected it. And guess what? When you gained 2 pounds and the scale says 2 pounds and you said you were going to gain 2 pounds, well, then you just did exactly what you said you were going to do, which is what we are trying to do every step of this journey. Become the woman that does what she says she's going to do. Even if what you said you weren't going to do isn't good, doesn't matter. What's the alternative? Saying everything good and never doing it? That's worse, right? So the expectations, lady, just pause right before you go in and think about what is the goal for how I'm going to handle this? Is it just be consistent? Is it only get seconds, not thirds? Is it avoid contact with your father-in-law for longer than 5 minutes? Like, what is the actual goal that you can do immediately and that is not going to cause you stress or anxiety? So that's the E. Then you have the A, okay? So last time you had that event, how did the after event or the next day go? Think about that. How did it go? Did you feel lethargic and skip a workout? Did you feel bloated and have a lazy day and watch Netflix? Did you say, I'll start next Monday? Did you eat a little extra because you said, oh, I already blew it a little bit yesterday, I'll clean up tomorrow? What happened, right? How did the next day, or even as simple as, were you in a bad mental state the next day because you were a little bit guilty or just put off, right? So then you have to say, okay, how did I get there? Like, what was the habit that most likely happened, that pattern that happened at the event, right? Which for some people, it could be, we had a toast and I freaking shotgunned a beer. I don't know, whatever it is your thing is. Are we still shotgunning beers? So you say, what is your thing? And then that thing is still looming over you the next day. So how are you going to, what could potentially happen the next day for you? You have to be aware of it. You can't pretend like it's not going to happen or hope it won't be there. And then what's one thing you can do to prevent it from carrying over, right? Is it going for a long hike? Is it planning with your husband, because you went to the event with your husband, is it planning with your husband the night before that you're going to go for a long hike the next day? That way you're out of the house, you're not exposed to food, you're still getting activity in, and you have a schedule to stick to. When there's no schedule, that's when we get bored. That's when we think about food more. That's when we sit with our emotions, which can make us act badly. So it's, what do I need to do the next day to make sure that those habits don't carry over? Or even though if that impulse is there and they are lingering, how can I prevent it from happening or happen less intensely? That's it, right? So that's the thing, right? If you're feeling guilty the next day and the guilt makes you say, why am I even doing this? It's not even worth it. It's too hard, right? So then you overeat. How can you prevent yourself from feeling guilty the next day? Well, the first thing was set your expectations right to reduce the guilt the day of. And then if there's a little bit of lingering guilt, okay, I have to do something that would make me proud to cancel out the guilt, if not overpower it. What would make you proud the next day, right? If you ate all your veggies, if you drank all your water, if you went on a hike, what's something small, right? Set the realistic expectation. Things like that, okay? And then lastly, tactics. Okay, so what are the weapons you have in your back pocket that you're bringing to the table? All right, for the event and for after the event. Are you going to wear tight pants? Are you going to bring your own food to the potluck? Enough for everybody, so you seem like the nice person, but you actually get to eat all the food to yourself, right? Are you going to volunteer to host the event yourself so you can be in charge of the food? So you can determine when the food goes out, when you put it away. So you're so busy hosting that you don't have time to sit down and eat. Like, what are some things you can put in place, right? If you're going to a barbecue, you say, honey, can you make me a plate? Instead of you going up to the buffet and seeing it all, right? So what are some little tactics, little things, right? Gum, protein powder. You can even go in and say, I'm going to eat whatever I want, but first I'm going to fill up on veggies. Even something like that. So you're filled up to here, up to your neck with veggies. So even if you do screw up, you still don't have much room left in your body, right? Things like that, right? Use these to your advantage, all of them, right? Reset boundaries, right? Pull somebody aside that's usually a bad influence and just say, hey, would you mind not doing this today? You can do stuff like that. They're not gonna say no. They're going to feel embarrassed that you think of them that way in the first place, which will make them stop doing it in the future as well. So things like that, ladies, okay? That is my little sneak peek for you. It's getting more developed. I'm getting worksheets done so you can go through this on your own time every time that you do it. Really cool stuff. Think about it, okay? You can practice this if you've got an event, or if you just had an event, you can go through this and see how you could have been more prepared and done better. And just follow the Be Great cheat sheet. When in doubt, be great. GREAT. That's all you need to know. It's all in those categories. You don't have to freak out, wonder what to do, where to go. Start there, and you will feel much more prepared, much more calm, much stronger with who you are and your capabilities. And then we get to take that experience and put it on the good experience side, not another bad experience. No more of that. We don't want that. That's going to put you in the wrong mental state, and you're going to make worse decisions as a domino effect, right? Awesome. So really quickly, I want to know, what was something that you took away from this? Did this clarify things for you? Did this give you a path of how to handle this? Did it make you think in a way that you haven't thought about it before? Is there one of those letters that you haven't been doing because you think you just got it? Let me know a little takeaway for you. What is this going to do for you? And write it in the comments. I'll be waiting. Give me a tool to not feel guilty. Excellent. Yes. Guilt is one of the worst emotions. It is so heavy on your heart. It does not, no good decisions ever come from guilt. Let me tell you that. Definitely need to plan better. Yeah, like go. There's no such thing as planning too much. As long as you are being realistic with what you're capable of planning, like obviously some things are out of your control. And as long as if you're going with somebody, they're not fighting you against your plan, go nuts. Go super detailed, right? But don't just go in saying there's going to be food, there's going to be alcohol, I'm just going to have a little bit of it. No, know what food could potentially be there, know what alcohol, know who's going to tempt you, know where the food's going to, like, just get into it so you know every corner. It's like a map already in your mind. So you're not shocked, right? It's like when the birthday cake comes out, and the candles are being pulled over to the person, and you stare at it as it goes over, right? We stare at the birthday cake as it travels to the birthday person, right? But if this cake was sitting on the counter the whole time, you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Wouldn't be so alluring, right? We're like, what's the cake? What flavor is it, right? Is it an ice cream cake? We go nuts, right? But just knowing it takes away the excitement because it's already there. You've already hyped yourself up about it. And the nostalgia of, oh my God, it's there. I'm never going to get it again, right? That's gone. Because guess what? It was at your last event. It can be your free meal. It'll be at your next event, right? All of these things pop in and come into play. Notorious for coming back to an event than eating at home. Yes, even though I'm full or tired. Exactly. So in that case, that A is really important for you. What is your plan B at home, right? Do you know that you need to throw the chocolate out in the house after event, right? Like before you go to event, throw the chocolate out. You can have it in your house, but maybe just not after an event. Right? Do you need to set your alarm for an early morning wake up, or you could even call a friend and say, hey, we're going to do a 6 a.m. walk, and you can't bail on a friend, right? So you're up early, you want to go to sleep earlier because now you're dreading this, but you committed. Like use your laziness to your advantage sometimes, right? Things like that. Maybe feel good about my holidays. Yes. So if you just had an event, and then you can kind of compare, right, this stuff to the event you just had, it'll show you where you are improved. It'll show you like automatically how different your brain is thinking now, which is really cool, right? Because it's another sign of progress, and it does like, okay, cool, I am on the right track. Even if the number wasn't good in your eyes, it doesn't matter. Look at how intense you planned, and look at how much you thought about it. That's a win in of itself, which is awesome. If I crash, I can get up and keep going. Exactly, right? If all else fails, you choose the lesser of two evils, right? What is the least worst decision I can make right now? And that's still you making a decision and following it. That's what you need to get, right? If you went to the point where you said, screw it, you can recognize and be like, okay, when I say that, I'm going to feel guilty, I'm going to lose control, and I'm just going to go after everything that I see, right? But if you say, okay, I'm in my screw it mood, I've got no willpower left, I'm about to go crazy, how can I just make the lesser of the bad decisions, right? Frozen yogurt instead of frozen ice cream, right? Half a slice instead of a full slice. Whatever it is, right? Leave half an hour early instead of staying all the way. What's like the one little better decision that I can make so that if I make a decision to go eat the cake, and I eat the cake, I still followed through on what I said I was going to do. So you can use that as your win, right? And if your your expectations were set properly and you had a goal, you can still make that bad situation end up giving you a little piece of that goal, which is really cool. Right? Because if your goal was, I just want to be a woman of my word, I'm going to lower my expectations and I'm just going to do what I say. And everything I do is going to be things that I've done in the past, not things that I wish I could do, things I did in the past. And then that's your goal. So even if you totally screwed up, you're still doing what you said you would do, which means there was no screw up. Right? You can always flip it. Right? Sometimes you do have to lose a battle if you do want to learn something and be more strategic, have more weapons to win the war. Sometimes you have to lose the battle. And anybody who's lost the battle here knows that it is like a mine of knowledge. You know that, right? It's either revealing a big flaw to you, which you wouldn't have otherwise known, or it's just teaching you more about your triggers and more about your habits. And learning more about yourself is never a waste or never a failure. Even if you can't figure out how to fix that yet or a way out of it, you still are more aware, which is awesome.